welcome back to Butterchuck Locks. So you might have an occasion to go to a wedding, a christening, date night, and you may not know what to do with your locks. So whether or not you have medium length locks, short locks, or longer locks, I'm going to be showing you today with my model, Dami, a few styles that are versatile, stylish, and most importantly, so easy to do. So let's get started with these tutorials on Dami's freshly retwisted locks. So our first style is going to consist of 4 sections. A way to do this easily is to divide the locks down the middle of the head so you have 2 halves, and then split those halves into halves again so that you have 4 sections. You then use a band or the lock themselves to separate each section, making it easier to work. With this next section here, you do need some beginner to intermediate understanding of how to cane row. So as with loose strands of hair, the idea is to get the braid to sit closely and flat towards the scalp. So what I'm doing here, as I create a plait, I am bringing in 1 or 2 locks at a time as I braid down, and that way it's going to ensure that my lock braid stays close to the head. I'm not doing it tightly, I don't want to put tension on the locks, but I do want to keep the braid flat and close to the head, and I'm braiding all the way down. As I get to the end of that cane row and there are no more locks at the back of the head, I then turn it into a braid. And I'm braiding quite closely. I don't want any gaps in the plait, and also for that reason is because the ends of shorter locks will begin to fray out. Now, whilst at this stage that is okay, I want to minimize just how many locks are frayed out. That way there's less pinning to do when we create our bun. But I'm plaiting all the way to the end here, and when I get to the bottom, I'm going to add an elastic band to secure it. And I'm going to follow that on with the other 3 sections. Here you can see an example of where the shorter lock ends are beginning to flick out of the braid, but that's okay because I've gone back in and I've tucked them in neatly there and then secured the end with a band. The result, 4 cane rows braided to the end. So again, don't worry about the shorter bits that may be sticking out. We are going to tuck those in afterwards. And now I'm just checking also for any tension. So I'm moving the braids around and also loosening up that back row of locks so that as we begin to maneuver the braid around into a style, there's no tension. So I've decided that it works better to cross the braids in a different way. You might find the same as well. It just looks better and feels better to cross the braids in a particular way. So I've placed that one under and this one over, and I'm using a long bobby pin to stick in between the locks to hold the 2 braids together. Now, the reason why I use a long bobby pin is because I find I get a better grip. Often shorter pins do not provide the support that's needed and your style can slip out. But here now with the ends, I'm tucking them in, and what's so great about locks is that you can tuck the different pieces into different places and it all becomes part of the style, the texture, the body, and it's quite easy to conceal actually inwards and then supporting it there with a pin. And again there I'm tucking, loose ends will be tucked in overall at the end once the basic construction of the bun is complete. Now I've got these 2 ends and I am wrapping them under, not over. I'm not trying to bring the bun out any further outwards. I'm trying to keep it in together whilst comfortable at the base of the neck. So I've tucked it under here, as you can see. I'm supporting it underneath, so any loose ends, it just keeps the bun neat And then I am going to take a pin and support that underneath, again pressing the pin through the locks, not to rest on the head. Tucking and concealing there, and then there is the pin to keep that section inwards. Also, as you can see, my model is leaned slightly forward. That way then I can see how closely the bun is to the neck as she bends her head down and moves it in different directions, so we can see the overall functionality of the bun. It doesn't make sense having it work in one direction but then not feeling comfortable as you move, because you want to move, it's a moving style, and so you want to keep all its functionality also. As I complete pinning, I'm just checking around the base of the style to make sure that all the loose ends are tucked in and that the style is comfortable on the neck. This style is definitely a creative take on the classic chic bun. A style for any formal occasion or professional setting, and it really does bring out the beauty in your features and the absolute beauty of your locks. And if you want to add some eye-catching details, you can also include some lock jewelry. So here I'm pinning in some gold rings, and not too many, we're not overdoing it. I've probably put maybe 2 per braid. So again here framing the face, and then a few at the back, and here is our style complete. This next style requires you to bring your locks up into a high ponytail. Please ensure that the band that you are using can comfortably create 2 or 3 loops. That way it's not pulling on the edges of your locks and also not pulling towards the back and the middle. I'm sectioning off the locks here into 4 or 5 sections. This is where we're going to create braids, and I'm just using some bands to secure, again making it easier for us to work through each section. These beautiful brightly colored ribbon pieces are going to be braided through each section. So what I'm doing is anchoring the ribbon to each section of the locks to create a braid. So where I would divide each section into 3, 2 of those sections will have the ribbon in, and I just feed in the braid, as you can see here, just wrapping it in. It doesn't matter if some of it wraps towards the back and some of it's in the front. When we maneuver the braid around into the style, you will see parts of the ribbon, and it's just to get those flecks of color. Now, as you can see here at the end, I created a knot. So in this next section, you'll see as I'm braiding down, and how I create the knot is the ribbon length is long enough to create an extra loop when I get to the bottom, and then feed the end of that ribbon through the loop, almost creating not a tight knot, but at least a tie to hold the section. You see there? To hold the section whilst we work through the others to then finish the ribbon style. If you are finding it tricky to create a secure knot at the bottom with the ribbon, you can use an elastic band to hold the ribbon and the locks together. And here I've only used 2 colors, but you can use as many different colors as you would like. It all adds to the effect for the style. Now here I'm just seeing how I like the direction that the braids tuck into to see if I need to change anything before I commit to finishing the style. Now this next section is not always necessary, but is helpful where you might have uneven locks after creating the braid and also excess ribbon. So as you can see here, I am wrapping the ribbon closely together and down the end of the lock and securing with a rubber band. I'll show you it again. Now the purpose of this is to keep all the shorter ends of the locks together and also to wrap in the excess ribbon that you have, creating a more seamless style finish. There are a couple of ends tucked at the bottom, that is absolutely fine. And as you can see, it allows a bit of ease now when tucking and pinning the style together, that you're not having to fuss with extra lock pieces that might be coming out of the style. That way too, minimizing the amount of pins that you're using. And there's no set way on how to pin your bun. It is purely up to what looks good to you. So you might decide that you want a bit more height to your bun, and so you might have your rolls kind of going up a bit higher. Maybe you might want a certain color to show more on one side than the other, or more towards the front than the back. It's completely up to you to play with these different sections and pin them into place. And again, I'm using the long bobby pins. That way we get some grip further in to the braids rather than towards the front where it may loose out very quickly. You get a bit more grip further into the braid. And again, we're not trying to pin near the scalp. It might feel doable for now, but it is going to hurt a couple hours in. So really try to avoid pressing against the scalp where you can, and more so around the middle of the plaits. But also too, you might find that you want your braid to just sit a little bit closer to the head and not lift. So it's more about what feels comfortable as you're pinning in, and also being able to find the pin when you need to release it a bit for some ease. I absolutely love this style. It is the perfect way to add some razzle dazzle to your lock bun. It's decorative, and you don't just have to use ribbon. You can use velvet, you can use Ankara fabric, you can use whatever you like to interweave into your lock bun for a perfect lock style. So this style is definitely for my intermediate advanced stylers. However, there is no reason why a beginner cannot practice this style to improve their technique. So here I am splitting the locks into 3 sections. The 2 smaller sections to the front of the head, and then we have the larger third at the back. As the back section is going to be braided up, I have pushed the locks up to the front of the head, got my pins ready, and I'm going to do a lobster roll, I think it's called. But it's basically taking a lock, 1 or 2 locks from each side, and bringing it round to the middle to a hold. So I take from the right side, hold, left side, hold, right side, hold, left side, hold. And I am slowly twisting the hair as it goes up. I'm not wrapping the lock all the way round, because then you'll find that the middle will become quite hard and solid and stick out a bit. We kind of want it flat, but we want the lock to be secure as it goes up. This is definitely something that you can practice in terms of getting the grip right as you wrap it up to make this pattern of overlapping fins or folds. And I do this all the way to the top until there are no more locks to pull into the middle. And then you could either use an elastic band to hold it in place, but I have used the wrap and tuck method. So I will take the last lock or 2 and tuck it in to secure it in the middle there. And if you want to use a pin to make sure it's secure, you can, or you can use an elastic band. But aesthetically, I like how it looks without the elastic band. And can you see there, like a lobster tail, neatly tucked and folded in there. And I'm now going to do that same technique on the side. So I'm not going straight up and I'm not going back. I'm kind of going off at an angle, and I'm taking the first 2 locks to anchor the flat roll, the lobster roll. And again, take 1 from one side, 1 from the other side, 1 lock from one side, 1 lock from the other, and twisting and holding, not pulling too tight, but keeping it close to the head. Remember, we want a secure style, and that way then there's less tension if you keep it close to the head. Wrap all the way up until there are no more locks in that section to wrap. And then again, you can either use an elastic band, or as I prefer to use, the wrap and tuck method. So I tuck it in there, making a very loose tie, very loose knot, and so that it's secure. Sometimes rubber bands can look a little bit ugly, so it's nice to not have to use them to give it a cleaner finish. And then now on the other side, I am doing the same. for this particular style, even though I could have taken that whole section and braided it down, I actually split that section in two. So there'll be a bit of a fringe part that we'll deal with in a moment. But this flat twist side just brings up that corner so that there isn't a lot of hair hanging down on the side of the head, making it a neat style, and also meaning that you can switch the bang to either side because both sides are braided up. You can see here the little extra piece, just a couple of locks, not too many. And as I'm going to show here now how the lobster rolls look all the way around the head. And as you can see now, that the hair that's been brought to the top, as it falls, it just kind of cascades down like a nice waterfall. But what we want to do is fold up that fringe part, because what you don't want is it flicking around in your face all day. And we want to clean the look up a bit more. So what I'm going to do now is create a bang almost that's off the face, but is still a feature. And I'm loosely clipping it in place. And again, using my long pins to allow that section just to sit nice and soft there on the side of the head, like a side fringe, like a bang, but just not with locks hanging down in the face, because when you bend over, it's going to fall to the front and you'll find yourself every minute, you know, pushing it back, and that can get quite annoying. So to keep the style off the face, but still framing the face, I've pinned it up. And as you can see here, everything just sits nice and level, it's even, the layers are even, there isn't a sudden drop in the different lock layers, and it just sits beautifully around the head. And this is wonderful for any dressy occasion, a night out, dinner, brunch. It's a beautiful, elegant style. Thank you for watching this tutorial showing 3 ways to style your locks for your special occasions. Remember, practice makes progress, so the only way to get better at styling your locks is to actually style your locks. So please do give these styles a try, and if you would like me to expand on any of the techniques showing more detail, I'll be more than happy to do that in future videos. And speaking of future videos, please do like, comment and subscribe to the Butterchuck Locks channel, where I will be posting more tutorials and lock care information. As well as YouTube, you can find Butterchuck Locks on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok, but all the juicy details are on my website, www.butterchucklocks.com. Hope to see you there. Bye.